Dominik Szoboszlai was really good last season and looked like he'd play a key part in Liverpool's midfield going forward, certainly next season. Then we sign Wirtz, we sign Ekitike, and we break the bank on these two players. There's no way they're going to be dropped. Where's Szoboszlai's future? Immediately his future is kind of in uncertain waters, right? Because he's not going to start where Wirtz is going to start because Wirtz is a better player. He's not going to start as a 2 with Wirtz because Ekitike, you'd like to think, is going to play some games like he signed for 80 million quid. So immediately, those two positions rules him out of the team. Do you bring him in as a number 8? But then again, McAllister and Gravenberch were so good last season. He's not going to come in for Gravenberch because we need that defensive presence. So likely he comes in for McAllister, but then you're losing one of our best players, for me, a world-class midfielder there, who was great last season. You can't put him off the left because he's not that kind of player. And also we've got Gakpo and Diaz there. Yeah, you can put him off the right, but then you lose Mo Salah, our best player. So where the hell is Szoboszlai's role in this video? We're going to go through it. And actually, we're going to try and force a role for Szoboszlai because I love him. It's worth starting the video with this. He's so good. It's almost unfortunate that Szoboszlai's in this position because he's done nothing wrong. Literally, you could pick a pool of 3-4 players in the world who could have replaced him for last season. Yamal in a more central role, yeah. Musiala, Wirtz. Like, how many players seriously could do his job better? Not many. And unfortunately for him, well, fortunately, because he plays for the club, he wants the club to do well. And actually, they will play together and it'll make him better. So it's a good thing. But unfortunately for his game time, he's got the one guy who's actually probably better than him in the attacking midfield role. I think Wirtz is a better playmaker. I think he's a better creator. I think Wirtz is a better dribbler than Szoboszlai. I actually think Szoboszlai's a better striker of the ball. I think he's perhaps a better finisher, maybe not inside the box, but certainly from long range. Not to say Wirtz can't hit a ball, but that's one of Szoboszlai's absolute strengths. Another one of his big strengths, his ability to cover ground. Szoboszlai definitely exceeds Wirtz in my opinion in terms of off-the-ball work rate, the engine, that kind of running power, them legs. He's so athletic, right? And Szoboszlai could be used as an 8. I don't think Wirtz could be particularly as effective as maybe an 8 like McAllister is, but I think Szoboszlai's proven that he can be, and Wirtz for me is better used off the left, Szoboszlai towards the right, which actually works, right? That's one positive we could take from this. Wirtz, Leverkusen played towards the left, maybe towards the fullback and the midfielder, in between that zone, and Szoboszlai's probably the same position off the right. If you could handpick Szoboszlai's position, you'd probably go something like Leverkusen, like they played with 2 behind the striker, Szoboszlai in there. So actually, let's just work attack going backwards. As a front 5, that really works in my opinion. So you've got Salah, Szoboszlai, Ekitike, Wirtz and Gakpo, Wirtz and Szoboszlai behind Ekitike. I think that's unbelievable. But then you look at kind of how it affects the rest of the team, and yeah, it's very interesting. If you had someone like Alexander-Arnold here, say Bradley was and wanted to invert, obviously we've got 12 players on the pitch now, so you'd have to drop out. I mean, I don't even know. You'd have to, let's just, for argument's sake, say McAllister drops out. I mean, crazy, right? But you could do some sort of thing like this where your right back or your left back inverts into midfield. Man City did this quite a lot with Rico Lewis. This is literally how Man City lined up with that kind of box midfield you're creating here. You'd have maybe a Trent profile who could invert, or a Reece James, but I don't really see Bradley as that. Yeah, he's great on the ball and he's comfortable in this zone, I reckon, but he's better for me in these areas, right? And we've got Frimpong, who's absolutely better in these areas. So I don't want to restrict our fullbacks from moving them into midfield. Could you do the same the other way around and Kerkez comes into midfield, possibly? I think he's done that at times. He's stepped in there. But again, I want to see him in these wide areas. He's so good kind of one-on-one in these zones. So let's just not move it and make it more complicated. So that's ruled out. This formation, this 3-2-4-1 thing's ruled out. Again, we're trying to force Szoboszlai in this team because I think actually he should be forced in. I really think he's good enough to be forced in. And I'm all about playing to our strengths. And he's absolutely one of them, isn't he? Is he not? Let's go to this now. Let's keep that same front 5 because it looks so exciting. We'll talk about it in a bit more context in a minute. But let's try and make it work first because currently we've got 12 men on the pitch and it doesn't work. Right, you could do something like this. Gakpo drops out. Hear me out. Right, hear me out. Watch this. Kerkez. All right, hear me out. Where's my right back? Where is he, Bradley? Where's 84? There he is. So this immediately kind of works, right? Because there's your flat back 4. It kind of lines up in a 4-2-3-1. In essence, Szoboszlai plays in that role he played in last year. Wirtz towards the left, which is where he played in last year as well, I guess. And then in attack, if you wanted to go down the left, you kind of all shift across. Kerkez bombs forward, right? And then you get something very similar to Kerkez and Grimaldo and Wirtz at Leverkusen, right? With that Kerkez and Wirtz relationship. Could that work? You've then got your midfield of Gravenberch and McAllister. Nothing changes there. Nothing changes actually in the back 5. Maybe Bradley doing a bit more defensive duty there. I think that really works. Then you got Wirtz and Szoboszlai in behind Ekitike, kind of bouncing off each other. Salah, of course, playing there. So yeah, that works, right? However, my issue with this is, how long can you sustain this with Bradley, who, for me, is a really great attacking fullback, and certainly Frimpong? These two are going to probably rotate games, in my opinion, or share game time. So can Frimpong play there? He probably can, but it's wasting him, surely. Like, this is a guy who, some of his positional play last season was done literally in the final third in the opponent's box, let alone half. Like, you want this guy to be forward. So then, you changed, again, how you're thinking. So we go back to it. Let's bring Frimpong into the team now and drop Bradley out. You keep this kind of front thing here, but you all shifted across, right? So Frimpong, it kind of rotates. Konate comes across, Van Dijk comes across. Kerkers, I think, for me, is much more capable of playing as a centre-half's definitely the wrong word. That is not a centre-back. That is a left-back covering that area. That is not a centre-back at all. He's definitely more capable doing that than Frimpong is on the other side for me. He's better 1v1, that kind of thing. I think he's better defensively in general. Gravenberch and McAllister stay. No problem at all with that. You've got two bodies in there to protect from the counter-attacks. It really works. And then, you're right, Frimpong will kind of play in this role here, but obviously Salah's there. So my idea is something like this. And I'd love to hear what you kind of think here, because, again, I'm trying to force Szoboszlai in the team. I'm not saying this is what we're going to do at all. I actually don't think we'll do this, but it's worth having these conversations about how do we get this player in the team. Frimpong plays towards the right here. Look at that, kind of covering that zone. That's where he's best used, in my opinion. You're moving Salah more central, which I think is a good thing. You're moving him closer to goal, firstly. He's got to probably do less running. Also, if you did have to do running, you'd have Ekitike in front of him, Szoboszlai, proper workhorse, and also Frimpong around him. Like, you're covering some of our best ball, ground, what was I going to say then? I was going to say ground breakers. That's not even a thing. I guess, like, grass churners, I'm going to call them. Oh my god, that could be actually the real brand. But these players run, right? And Salah is surrounded by them players. Only thing with this is Wirtz has kind of moved to the left. And yeah, he's played here, but has he played that far left? And then the argument is, well, okay, we could bring Diaz in, but then where'd you play Wirtz, right? It's really difficult, and this is actually one of the formations I suggested on my video yesterday. And I think actually that's quite a realistic formation. But Szoboszlai's not in the team, right? Which, the whole idea of this video is we're trying to force him in. So this is another option. You do something like this. Realistically, let's just think about this, right? Who is not going to be dropped? From this team, non-negotiables. I do not see a world in which this back six, including Alisson, are dropped. Chuck Salah in for 7. Chuck Wirtz in for 8. I think there is a world in which Diaz, Gakpo, Ekitike and Frimpong are all vulnerable. Yeah, Ekitike would just spend £80 million on whatever it was. I don't think that makes him immune from being dropped. I actually don't. I think Wirtz is literally coming into Liverpool as a world-class player. Ekitike is not. And I think at times, don't be surprised if something like, I think we'll sign someone else, by the way. I think Núñez will go out, but just assume Núñez is someone else. Someone a bit more direct, like a Núñez profile comes in here. And then you kind of play with two natural fullbacks and they offer the width and you get the crosses in. I think that could be a world in which we do that. And Szoboszlai joins the midfield 3. Wirtz plays towards the left, Salah towards the right. I think that could definitely be something. Again, that transition from last year to this year, you want to keep as minimal as possible, right? To reduce, I guess, risk of just going off track, really, because that was a successful team that last year, right? So you want to change it as little as possible, sorry. Let's go back to this. There. I think actually as well, that is people misconstrue that as like, oh, Kerkers can't play it. Well, he can. He absolutely can. Just shut up. Frimpong, forward. Salah. So I'm talking about these players who are just absolute certainties. Let me drop Núñez back to the bench. Ekitike comes in. So this is the kind of thing I suggested, which looks a bit wonky because Wirtz is wide here. But Ekitike is not guaranteed. So is there a world in which you could do this? Which I actually thought we were going to do. I really did. I thought this was going to be our team there. Before we signed Ekitike, I just thought Wirtz would play as a false 9. And again, it wouldn't really be this. On paper, it would be this. But in reality, I just think there's a world in which these two kind of bump forward. I think there's also a world in which we do something like this, and check this out. I know I'm throwing loads of things at you, but just stick with me. Gravenberch kind of drops in to form the essence of a back 3. It wouldn't obviously be that, but you get my picture. McAllister and Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai drops in deeper, and you've kind of got something like this, with Wirtz playing as a false 9. So look at that, as a kind of 3-4-3. I really like this. This team actually has everything for me, and Gravenberch can play there. He's done it last year. A lot of games, certainly towards the back end. And look at this, the kind of running power of Salah and Diaz on the counter is going to be scary. Wirtz literally probably our best player in the more central zone, giving him the keys to do whatever he wants here. Kirke's overlapping, Frimpong overlapping, a mixture of kind of physicality, brains, intelligence with McAllister and Szoboszlai in there, who have a good relationship. I think that is one of the still more likely options we do, albeit we signed Ekitike. And by the way, this is definitely doable. If you did this, Wirtz came out, Ekitike went there, and this is the next thing I wanted to show you. Hold on, what have I done? Yeah, that's right, sorry, there. That's just as simple as Diaz coming out and Wirtz moving towards the left. That's another one. Could we see something like this at Liverpool next season? There are so many ways in which you can get Szoboszlai in this team. I don't think it's as simple as Szoboszlai has just dropped. You know what I mean? Even if he is dropped, quote unquote, he'll still play at least half our games. He just will. He's good enough to, and he should be. So, what are your thoughts on all these? I've thrown like 5 or 6 formations at you there. I'm really liking this one. I think it offers a lot of balance. It's very symmetrical, which I think is great. And I'm just going to end on the first one I showed you, which was Ekitike. Hold on. Yeah, there. It was as simple as this. 1, 2, 3. Frimpong forward. Hold on, what have I done here? Where was Salah was wide right. The only thing with this one is, I think you need Salah close to goal, because he's our best player. He's our best at scoring goals. Hold on, I'm not going to show you that one because it's crap, because I want Frimpong forward, utilise his strengths. The only weakness is Wirtz plays towards the left, which is that a weakness? I don't know, because still, like, he's got a proper defender behind him here, and I guess there could be some sort of link up, some sort of overlap, but you've got to be careful because of the amount of space here. Again, if we go this way, Frimpong can definitely get back. Gravenberch will be more sitting deeper naturally than is meant McAllister. So in terms of counters going this way, I wouldn't be as worried, but in terms of going towards the right, I definitely would be in this scenario. I actually think, all things considered, that last one I showed you, which I'm going to apologise for keep moving it around, but I'm going to end on that because I really like it. I really like it. Also, by the way, with this, you get Van Dijk in the middle, which is really cool. Gravenberch, again, don't assume that's a centre-back. It's not. He's not playing a centre-back. He's a midfielder who's been more conservative and just not joining the attack. Like, let me move this. That's what I'll do. I'll move it onto, if we're attacking now against a low block, I'll show you exactly what it looks like. McAllister and Szoboszlai, let's swap them around. So in essence, really, it is a 4-3-3. If you're getting confused by this, it's a 4-3-3, guys. There. It doesn't look like a 4-3-3, right? But there's your 3 in midfield. 1, 2, 3. There's your 2, 4, 3, 3. Very narrow. Getting over. It could look something like that, I think, actually, at times as well. And I've really convinced myself that we're going to do this next year. In fact, I might even do a video in a couple of days talking about this lineup exactly and actually really work out how this would work, because I'm liking the look of this a lot and I've talked myself into it. And I don't think actually we need to bring in too many players to make this work. You've got great cover in this kind of a proper number 8 role, this is as well, with Curtis Jones, who can definitely come in there and do very good. I mean, maybe Bajcetic a bit more defensive and Morton a bit more defensive for this role, but maybe Harvey Elliott could work in there, maybe not with Jones, but instead of Jones. Yeah, I'm really liking this, guys. If Bradley comes in here, those kind of inverted runs that Bradley loves to offer in there, with Salah getting wide. We saw it in the pre-season game yesterday, didn't we, with Salah and Jones combining in the wide right zone. What are your thoughts? I'd love to put it to you now, and I'm going to start planning a video about this formation, 3-2-5, for the next video. I'm really happy I've talked myself into this because I think it really works. I'd love to know, hear your thoughts down below on Szoboszlai specifically. Where do you see his role? Do you see him as a number 8, a number 10, a kind of right-sided player behind Ekitike? Do you see him as Wirtz still playing as a false 9 with Szoboszlai behind? Let me know. I'd love to get this guy involved in the team next year because, my word, does he deserve it. Watch this video there for more Liverpool content and subscribe. Bye.